I hope that you're well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on author's purpose and tone. And before we start with our lesson on author's purpose and tone, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 5. And then once we have selected the subject of language arts, grade 5, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of author's purpose and tone. All right. So our chapter is author's purpose and tone. Our subject is English language arts, grade 5. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on today under the chapter of author's purpose and tone, we're going to identify the purpose of the text, and also which sentence is more formal. So we're going to then say which sentence is more formal. All right. So when it comes to author's purpose and tone, right? If you look at the word author, and then the first thing that should come to your mind is a writer or someone who writes or someone who writes books or articles, right? And that is an author. So when it comes to an author's purpose and tone, we're going to have to know the purpose as well as the tone in which he or she writes, let's say, certain things or books or articles. What the purpose is for the author to write um, this article, for example. And we also need to listen to the tone of the writing. All right. So when it comes to an author, right, we said authors, they write texts for different purposes. That is why you will never just find an author that just writes with no purpose. Because remember, whatever they write needs to make sense. There needs to be a flow, right? It's the same as reading a book. If there's no purpose to the book, and then it means that we won't even find the book interesting because there will be no flow, there will be no proper reason as to why he or she actually wrote the book. So in authors they basically write text for different purposes or for different reasons. One of the common purposes for writing either texts, it is basically to persuade readers to want to read this book. It's maybe to inform readers about important things depending on the type of book that you are reading. Because some books is for entertainment, some books are for, it's more informative books. And like I said, or to entertain readers. And that is why we say that authors, they basically need to know the purpose or the reason as to why they're writing. If they are just writing to entertain the readers, and then it means that the books will be more funny and it will have morals or life lessons to it, but it won't be as informative as a book that is more, let's say, structured, where they basically give you more facts than non-facts, for example. And also their purpose is to persuade readers. Because remember, they also have more than one book. So depending on how you like the book, you'll then definitely buy another book of that same specific author. So authors, they persuade, right? So they persuade readers by convincing readers to believe or to do something. So depending on the type of story that you are reading, right? Subtly, they are persuading us or convincing the readers to either believe something or to do something based on the book or based on the text. And an advertisement, it tries to convince readers to buy a product. Because remember, with advertisements, right? Specifically like stores, if you go to, like, let's say, I don't know, the different shops or stores that is in your country, but let's think of a universal store, like maybe McDonald's or KFC, for example, right? The person who is in charge of advertisement, right? The advertisement, it tries to convince readers to buy a product. That is why the products will be big, it will be bold. Even the coloring of the posters, right, will be catchy. It will look as if it's very flavorful, right? And they would definitely show some form of competition between any other, let's say, any other stores or restaurants who sells burgers or either chicken or whatever that they are selling or the product that they are advertising. But they basically want to convince the readers to basically buy the specific product, whether it is food that is being advertised or any other product that is being advertised. The same like if shoes is maybe being advertised, like sandals. And then they'll usually find people with beautiful feet, beautiful toes to basically model in those shoes and basically convince us to buy the shoes. So, an advertisement, it tries to convince readers to buy a specific product. And then when it comes to a political poster, right? They try to convince readers to vote for someone. So these political posters, usually when it's time for, like, let's say, the people to vote, then all these political posters, right, they'll try and come up with catchy phrases in order to convince the readers to vote for someone. It would be bold with the person's name and surname, the person's face, the name of the political party, right? And then they will convince the readers to vote for someone specifically. And also, authors they inform by telling readers about a specific topic or a process. And that also goes hand in hand with the purpose of writing is to inform, right? And certain textbooks, they are more informative than entertainment. And then when it comes to news articles or newspapers, right? News articles, they explain something that happened. So every single day, the news, they'll basically, with newspapers will be on sale, right? Or for free, depending. But every single day, it's an update of something that has happened either in the community, within the city, within the country, or sometimes internationally. Because they are trying to explain, like, to the viewers, to the readers, something that happened. So if, for example, there was a tragic event that took place, then they are trying to explain that something had happened. If there was a sports game that was playing between either Manchester and Liverpool, for example, and then they would explain in their own opinion as to how the game went, what happened during that specific game, right? Who scored, and also they would then give the scores of the specific games. So with news articles, they basically explain something that happened. And then when it comes to recipes, right? Yeah. A recipe describes how to cook a dish. So you have your method, right? And then they also tell you like what specifically to do. And also before they tell you what specifically to do or how to cook the specific dish, they also tell you what utensils, what ingredients and things that you need in order to cook the specific dish. They even go as far as tell you how long the preparation time is before you make the actual dish. And then sometimes the duration of how long it will take to make that dish and before the food, the baking or something is done. So that is also what it means when they say that there are different purposes when it comes to the authors. Because we spoke about advertisement, we spoke about political posters. They inform readers by telling them about certain topics or processes. Newspaper articles and their purpose or the reason of a newspaper article, the purpose and the reason of a recipe. And also, authors they entertain by giving readers something to enjoy, right? It's the same like with the newspaper article. There are different sections within that newspaper article, right? One that is more serious, the maybe one or two pages in the newspaper where there's like a form of entertainment. There's maybe a joke. There's maybe a few games in there, right? Sports. all those type of things. But authors, they entertain by giving readers something to enjoy. And most times, a lot of people enjoy even, let's say, gossip stories, like newspaper articles. They want to know what happened. They want to know what happened in the community, within the city, within the country. They want to know what happened internationally. Authors would also, when it comes to either writing a text or so on, a joke tries to make readers laugh. So they'll try to entertain people by either putting in a joke or two also. And then when it comes to a poem, right? Poetry tries to please readers. Because sometimes poetries are either it's happy poems, it's sad poems, it's usually poems that people can relate to. And that is why people always say you need to read with context. It's not just about reading a specific poem, but there is a deeper meaning to that poem. So it is to please readers in the sense of it's either you feel something deeply about this specific poem because it touches you and it sounds more personal, or it is more just a funny poem. You're being entertained by it. You're being entertained by the wording of the poems, the rhyming words of the poem, right? So that is, let's say, different ways in which the author tries to write his text for different purposes or for different reasons. Keeping in mind, it is also to persuade, to inform, and to entertain. All right. So this is basically our lesson on author's purpose and tone, right? And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca, right? All right, so let's go to our first lesson so long where we're going to identify the purpose of a text. And we basically said that authors, they write text for different purposes or reasons. And the common purposes for writing are to either persuade, to inform, or to entertain the readers. And then we made mention of all the different types of purposes and reasons as to why authors write texts. We said it's to persuade and convince readers to believe or do something. We made mention that advertisements, they try to convince readers to buy products. Political posters tries to convince readers to vote for someone. And authors inform by telling readers about topics or processes. Newspaper articles, they explain something that happened, whether it is locally or internationally. And then recipes, they describe how to cook a dish or to bake a certain dish, right? And then authors, they entertain by giving readers something to enjoy, by making you laugh, right? So a good joke, they try to make readers laugh by basically coming up with a good joke, by coming up with different wordings to make it seem as if, especially when it comes to your certain puns, um, and even when it comes to a poem, right? Authors, they try to please readers, and that is why we have rhyming words, right? And even the type of wording that they use within the poems. All right. So now we're going to read the text below and then we're going to say what we think the purpose is of that poem or of the text. Stack the blocks into a tower. Then take turns pulling blocks out of the tower. If you cause the tower to fall, you lose. So if we read that again, it says stack the blocks into a tower, then take turns pulling blocks out of the tower. And if you cause the tower to fall, you lose. So now we need to say what is the text's most likely purpose? What do we think the purpose is of this text? The purpose, is it to persuade? Is it to inform? Or is it to entertain readers? So by reading that, are they trying to persuade you to do anything? Are they informing you about something? Or are they trying to entertain you by either making you laugh? And if we read that text again, right, then it means that they are trying to inform us. They're trying to inform us about what to do, right? Step by step, they're informing us that you need to do this, then you need to do that, and then you need to do that. And of course, this is a game. I'm not sure what the name is of the game, but it's where you stack the blocks into a tower. Then everybody take a turn to pull out one of these rectangular blocks. And then if the tower falls, then you basically lose. So they're basically informing you as to what you need to do. So this text is to inform. All right, let's go to another text. So we're going to have to say if the next text is either to persuade, to inform, or to entertain the reader. So we need to read the text below. Vote for Dan Wells for city council. He'll stand up for the needs of our town's hard-working citizens. So usually when it comes to the politicians, these politicians, are they trying to inform us? Are they trying to persuade us? Or are they trying to entertain us when it comes to political rallies? Because here it says, vote for Dan Wells for city council. He'll stand up for the needs of our town's hard-working citizen. All right, so when it comes to political parties, right, and it's time to vote, then usually politicians or the people rallying for the politicians, they would try to persuade. So they would try to persuade you to vote. They would try to persuade you to vote specifically for this specific person that they are rallying for. In this case, they wanted to vote for Dan Wells. So now they're coming up with all these nice things that he does and the thing that he's going to do for the citizens. So they're trying to persuade you to vote for Dan Wells for city council, for example. All right, so we need to say if this is not to inform, to entertain, or to persuade. right? Give a child the gift of your time. Volunteer as a tutor today. Are they trying to persuade us to be a tutor? Are they trying to inform us to be a tutor or entertain us? Based on that text, it does not sound like it's for entertainment. All right, so if we look at that text again, then it says, give a child the gift of your time. Volunteer as a tutor today. And what they're trying to do is to persuade people to volunteer as a tutor, right? Which means that you'll be able to give your time to one or two children. So they are persuading you to volunteer as a tutor because it's going to benefit the company or the NGO as well as it's going to benefit you. All right, now let's go to our test where we are going to identify the purpose of a text. So during hot summer days, protect your skin from the sun. Remember to wear sunscreen, long sleeves, and on a hat and a hat. Everyday choices make a difference. We need to say what is the text's most likely purpose. Is this now to persuade, to perform, to inform, or to entertain? Are they trying to persuade us, to inform us, or to entertain us? During hot summer days, protect your skin from the sun. Remember to wear your sunscreen, long sleeves, and a hat. Everyday choices make a difference. So we're going to say what the text most likely purpose is. Are they trying to persuade us to wear sunscreen or to stay out of the sun or to protect ourselves? Are they informing us about something or are they trying to entertain us? All right, so if we choose the correct purpose, right, or what most likely the purpose is of the text, I'm going to read it again. It says, during hot summer days, protect your skin from the sun. Remember to wear your sunscreen, long sleeves, and a hat. Everyday choices make a difference. So, based on me reading the text, do you think the author is trying to persuade us? They're trying to inform us? Or they're trying to entertain us? All right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the first option, right? And they are trying to persuade us specifically to wear sunscreen because also the sun can make you sick. And that is why they say you have choices every day. So well done. The first one is correct. All right, so we're going to read the text below. It says to make a peach smoothie. First, cut up some peaches, then put the peaches, ice, and milk into a blender. Cover the blender and blend until smooth. What do you think is the text's most likely purpose? Is it to persuade readers to do this? Is it to inform readers? Or is it to entertain the readers? To make a peach smoothie, first cut up some peaches, then put the peaches, ice, and milk into a blender. Cover the blender and blend until smooth. Is this to persuade readers to do it, to inform readers, or to entertain the readers? Why do you think they're trying to entertain in the text? All right. So if we want to say what the text's most likely purpose is, right? Let's go with entertain. I think it is to inform, but let's go with entertain. This is actually to inform, right? It's the same like almost like a recipe. They're informing us as to what we need to do, right? Entertainment is more funny texts that we are getting, right? But while trying. To treat a bee sting, first remove the stinger, next wash the area, and then apply ice. What do you think is the text's most likely purpose? Is it to persuade readers to do this, to inform readers, or to entertain readers? So, to treat a bee's sting, first remove the stinger, next wash the area, and then apply ice. Are they trying to persuade us to do something? Or they're just informing us about what to do? Or they are about to entertain us? All right, so if we want to answer the question as to what is the text's most likely purpose, right, then we can maybe say that they are trying to inform us as to what to do when a bee stings you. So well done. They are trying to inform us that if a bee stings you, then these are the steps that you need to follow without panic. So while I'm gone, the cat needs to be fed and given fresh water each morning. The plants should only be watered on a Saturday. Are they persuading us to do something? Are they informing us or trying to entertain us? So when I'm gone, the cat needs to be fed and given fresh water each morning. The plants should only be watered on Saturday. What is the text's most likely purpose? Is it to persuade, to inform, or to entertain? So this person is leaving and they have found somebody to house it. And now they are telling people that while I'm gone, the cat needs to be fed and given fresh water every day. The plants should only be watered on a Saturday. Are they trying to persuade the people? Are they trying to inform the people about what to do? Or are they trying to entertain the people? All right. So since you are the only one that is responding, I'm going to go with entertain, right? But I still think that they are trying to inform the next person on what to do. But I'm going to go with the word entertain. You see, so they are trying to inform the next person as to what to do. Because remember, if you are finding someone to house sit, right, then they need to inform you as to what to do step by step every single day. So in this case, they're saying that the cat needs to be fed and given fresh water every morning, as well as the plants needs to be watered specifically on a Saturday. Because remember, if a plant gets too much water or too little water, it may die. But well done for trying. All right, so now we're going to have to say which sentence is more formal. All right, so formal writing is used within essays, business letters, as well as reports, right? And the following types of informal language should be avoided in formal writing. Remember how you speak to your friends is totally different as to how you write an essay. How you write a letter to your friend is totally different as to how you write a business letter, right? Because the way we speak, the slangs that we use, all of those has to be avoided when writing an essay because essays are formal, when writing a business letter, or when writing a report, right? So when it comes to formal language, right, the types of informal language that you need to avoid with informal language, that is correct. It was telling us to inform, right? So they were informing the next person as to what to do. All right. So now we're going to say these are the following informal languages, right, that you should avoid in formal writing. And this is when you're writing essays, business letters, or reports. Slang, right? You cannot use words like cool, awesome, sharp. You can't say words like that, right? When you are writing anything that is formal, like an essay, business letter, or report. You cannot be using idioms like knock you off your shoes, right? We don't use idioms. Idioms is more for like informal text, informal languages when you are writing a friendly letter to a friend or family, right? Conversational language. Like if you speak to your friends and you say to your friends, like, I'm gonna go to the mall later. I kind of feel a bit sick, so I think I'm gonna stay at home. Yeah, like, nah, don't do that, you know? So it's like when you speak certain conversational languages, like you speak to your friend, if you put that in writing and then you're going to be marked down on that, right? You cannot use abbreviation, right? Abbreviated language is a no go. You cannot use words like ASAP, FYI, NM for never mind, you know? So you cannot use those type of languages because remember we are writing formal, right? Formal writing, like with essays, business letters, and reports, you don't use slang, you don't use abbreviated language, you don't use idioms, and you try to avoid conversational languages. All right, so other simple or imprecise languages, right? He got some stuff at the store, contractions. So, like for example, contractions like can't, won't, don't, right? Those are words that you should not use. You need to write out the word can't in full, like cannot. You need to write out the word won't in full, like will not. Don't, you need to write that in full, like do not, right? So that is words that you need to try and avoid contractions. You cannot write down contractions as a formal letter, in a formal letter. Also, contractions are not as informal as other types, but they should be used sparingly, which means that if you use contractions, right, you cannot use contraction like at least two or three contractions in each sentence, or at least five or 10 in one paragraph, right? You're going to be marked down on it. One or two is enough. You compare the following sentences. The first is informal and the second one is formal. If we look at these two sentences, yeah, ostriches can't fly, but they are awesome runners. So, do you specifically see how this needs to be avoided? Well, this is informal. You cannot use the word yeah or nah for no, right? Ostriches can't fly. You're going to have to write this out in full, or there's only going to have to be one, right? So, it needs to be cannot, for example, but they are awesome runners, right? They are needs to be in full. Try to avoid awesome, right? Come up with another synonym for the word awesome. So then if you look at the way you can write it formally, right? It's though ostriches are flightless, right? They are remarkably adept runners. You don't have to now come up with these big words, right? But just try to avoid words like contractions and um your conversational language when writing formal letters, right? And once again, formal writing is used for essays, for business letters and reports. And that is why they did not bring up letters, because you get a formal letter and you get an informal letter. And your formal letters are usually your business letters, right? Or report. But your informal letters would maybe be like a letter to a friend, like a friendly letter to a friend or family member. And when you need to write an informal letter, then you may use all these informal genres and slang and conversational languages that you want to use. But you need to avoid using all of these words as mentioned when writing anything formally, like an essay, a business letter, or a report. All right. So that is now the end of our lesson on author's purpose and tone. We made mention earlier on about the reason or the purpose as to why authors write certain texts. And then we also got a step by step reason about all the purposes and reasons as to why authors write text, right? And we specifically made mention newspapers and the purpose of a newspaper, the purpose of a poem, right? So when authors they try to write with purpose, then it means that they are either trying to persuade you, they're trying to inform you, or they're trying to entertain you with their text that they are writing. But we're gonna have to know the difference between it, all right? All right, and also when it comes to formal and informal writing, we say that when it comes to formal writing, then there are certain things that you need to avoid, like slang, idioms, conversational language, abbreviations, contractions, and so on. All right, so that's the end of our lesson, grade 5. Thank you very much for joining our class. You should have a good weekend further. So, goodbye. Till next time.